NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory is really where it all happens when it comes to NASA's interplanetary and deep space missions. It's where missions that have been in design phases for decades finally come to life. They'll build the equipment there, they'll test it, launch it, and then control it from JPL and the Deep Space Network.
20 years after their last mission to Mars, NASA is finally ready to send another spacecraft for a mere $150 million.
And liftoff of the Delta rocket with Mars Pathfinder.
It's a lander called Pathfinder, along with a rover named Sojourner. After traveling through space for 7 months, they finally burst into the Martian atmosphere. Parachutes then slow them down as they approach the surface. Unlike the previous spacecraft they sent, this time NASA uses airbags to soften the landing.
The main thing that they accomplished, in my view, was to pioneer a new landing technology. So Viking had landed in the conventional way with retro rockets. It had to land in a very flat space or it would have tipped over. Pathfinder had airbags on it, and so it was capable of landing on one of the rockiest spots on Mars.
It was the first rover on Mars, so it was the first time that the spacecraft isn't just limited to sampling right where it landed. The rover can move around and can look at interesting rocks and can investigate its environment.
The first rock Sojourner probes is a 10-inch specimen called Barnacle Bill. The rock is loaded with quartz, indicating that it was heated and reheated multiple times. This suggests that Mars had been warm much longer than previously thought.
The rover took soil samples, adding a lot of evidence towards the idea that the rocks on Mars had been in a wetter environment in the past.
Pathfinder and Sojourner reveal that there was a period in the history of Mars when it was much more like the Earth than it is today.
Sojourner discovered evidence that Mars was probably much warmer and much wetter in its past. This was significant because we really did not understand what the early history of Mars was like. We didn't have enough information, and Sojourner, through its analysis of the soil and its analysis of the atmosphere, helped us to understand that there was a period in the history of Mars when it was much more like Earth than we see it today.
With the success of the Pathfinder Sojourner mission, on a shoestring budget no less, perhaps this will lead to more advanced rovers in the future. And one of the main goals would be to find evidence of life.
Well, when we think about searching for life, what we're really looking for, particularly in our solar system, is just microscopic life, just anything that's alive and reproducing. Because once we know that life started twice, once here on Earth and once somewhere else, then we know the universe is full of life.
In 2001, another spacecraft is sent to orbit Mars. Called the 2001 Mars Odyssey, it uses a spectrometer and a thermal imager to detect evidence of water. Scientists learned that at both poles there appears to be an abundance of water ice underneath the surface.
Mars has water in polar ice caps that are hundreds of feet thick. If we were able to melt that water into liquid, that water would be able to cover the surface of Mars to the depth of about 100 feet.
The 2001 Mars Odyssey also detects what appears to be deposits of water ice near the equator. Michael Meyer, a lead scientist of NASA's Mars Exploration Program, says, "The big surprise in the past 15 years of exploration is that the inventory of water on Mars is much greater than we had thought." In 2003, NASA sends 2 more rovers to Mars. Named Spirit and Opportunity, these golf cart-sized rovers are armed with a spectrometer, which can analyze rocks and soil.
The primary goals of the Spirit and Opportunity rovers boil down to determining the potential for life to exist on Mars in the present day, determining whether there's any recoverable water on the Martian surface at present, and determining when water may have existed on Mars in the past and how much may have existed.
Spirit's landing site was chosen to be Gusev Crater. It was thought to resemble things like our Grand Canyon on Earth, which was carved by ancient water flows. They thought that perhaps the Spirit rover would discover signs of an ancient water flow down into the crater. The choice of landing site for Opportunity, Meridiani Planum, was actually chosen on the basis of some observations from orbit by the Mars Global Surveyor, discovered signs of hematite minerals, which on Earth form in the presence of water.
These rovers make some fascinating discoveries.
The rovers did find examples of waterborne minerals around on the surface. They actually found these little tiny spherules, or little tiny balls of material that scientists were calling blueberries because that's how they appeared in the photographs.
It turns out these blueberries contain large amounts of hematite, a mineral that on Earth typically forms in water. The environment also proves to be just as telling as the minerals they find in the rocks.
One of them were these horizontally bedded rocks, these sedimentary layers that could have formed by water advancing and retreating in the same area for millions of years. So between the sedimentary layers and the hematite-containing spherules peppered all over the place, these suggested that this area on Mars, at least, was much warmer and wetter in the distant past.
In 2011, a car-sized rover named Curiosity is sent to Mars. It is the most sophisticated rover yet.
It has a number of laboratory instruments on board, so it can actually carry out experiments and analyze any samples that it brings on board.
The brain trust back at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory determines which soil or rock samples they want Curiosity to examine.
The way we drive the rovers is we bundle up all of the set of instructions for what it's supposed to do for the entire day and send it up, and it executes it. And we call it rover driving, but rover driving includes operating the robotic arm and the sampling system.
Curiosity's drill sample findings were exciting in that they essentially found elements that are considered to be the building blocks of life. You had results such as hydrogen, phosphorus, sulfur, carbon, nitrogen.
The rover also identifies clay materials, similar to what you'd find in a freshwater lake. Curiosity chief scientist John Grotzinger declares, if this water was around and you had been on the planet, you would have been able to drink it. Curiosity also finds sulfates and chlorides, hallmarks of salty liquids. It's proposed that, at another point in time, this area had shallow, salty pools.
If you think about seawater on Earth, that salt was actually one of the first environments that life arose on Earth. And so you could really imagine a pretty hospitable environment for life, potentially.
Curiosity, along with the previous rovers, Spirit and Opportunity, achieve one of their main goals. They prove that Mars once had a habitable environment.
You can't even estimate how invaluable they've been. All of the things that we've managed to learn from Mars. They're some of the greatest explorers humanity's ever had.
The latest rover sent to Mars is Perseverance. Similar to the Curiosity rover, this one will also gather soil and rock samples. But what's unique is that these samples will be returned to Earth on a future mission for further study.
The history of the planet is written in its rocks and its soil. So if you look at a core sample and you step back through the core sample, it's like going back in time.
With each mission we send to Mars, we understand a bit more about this strange world.
I think a lot of people think of Mars as this dead red rock floating out in space. But the more missions that we've sent there over the last few decades, the more we're realizing that is not the case at all. Mars is a really dynamic place. It's got gigantic dust storms, it has seasonal